I don't know about you, Brent, but I was kind of grooving to that music, kind
Yeah,
of
it's
getting
got
in
it's got good vibes. I mean, I play
the
guitar and it's got that little Chucky Chucky with a little delay. That's
uh-huh.
my jam.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here for it. All right, good morning. Thank you everyone for joining us for our live webinar. Hopefully, you're having a great Wednesday so far. Thanks again for taking the time to join us. Hopefully, this is exactly what you're here for. We're going to be jumping into a live demo of an integration between Shopify and Sage Intacct. Real quick, little housekeeping. You'll notice the lines have been muted. We'd still love to hear from you throughout, of course. So please drop your questions and comments in the Q&A feature in Zoom. We also have the chat box. So let's go ahead and get into some introductions. So my name is Melissa Bell, Marketing Director here at Venn. Joining me today to lead the webinar is Brent Bertolio. Our Managing Director, Chase Friedman, usually joins us for these, but he's actually tied up on a client project. I think Sage Intacct and Shopify as well,
Yep.
but he couldn't join us today. So Brent, it's all you. Brent came to Venn over 2 years ago now with a very extensive background in marketing and nonprofit ministry. He has a personal interest in technology automation, as is evident by the number of automations he has set up in and around his home. I think recently you just set some stuff up outside, Brent, so you are rocking and rolling there. And then as a natural relationship builder, he is perfect for the role as our Director of Business Growth. I speak from firsthand experience when I say he's mastered the art of the icebreaker on calls with new partners and prospects. So if you haven't had the pleasure, let's book a time with him and you will too see what I'm talking about. So with that, I will hand it over to you, Brent.
If the goal is to break the ice, sometimes it's just better to just crash right on through. So that's kind of what happens. Like, oh, I broke the ice right below me. I guess I'm going down.
Go big or go
Anyways,
home, right? Isn't that your
go
quote
bigger,
in your bio?
go big or go home. High risk, high reward. Well, guys, as Mel said, super excited to have y'all here with us. So quick kind of agenda. We're going to talk through integrations as a whole very briefly because the live demo is the main part of this. I want to show you guys what this looks like, but we'll talk about integrations. I'll explain how our standard Shopify Intacct integration works. We'll go through the demo. And then as we go through this, if you have questions, please send those along, but we'll make sure we leave time at the end to accommodate those as well. So integrations, what does that really mean? I think most people understand what integrations are, connecting systems together. There is a term out there in the wild called a manual integration, which is basically just importing and exporting data across systems. What we want to do at Venn is get rid of that process. Let's automate everything possible so that you can get back to what you do best. And that's not clicking a button to export different things out and import them somewhere else, right? You're paid, you're hired to know your business and be an expert in that world, not to click that button. So we want to help you free yourself up. In reality, integrations help us reduce errors at the end of the day. It's moving data back and forth, making our business move faster and stronger, but we also reduce those errors that come into the fold via human element, right? So you go in, you fat finger something, you kind of start over here and type something in the system, and you use the swivel your chair over and type it in somewhere else, whether that be two computers, which is a thing, or you're using a different system. It just introduces a lot of errors. So if you think about your situation, and if you had 1% error across the board, what would that do in terms of your revenue, in terms of your workload? That's very, very small. Most are well more than that, but it actually causes some significant heartburn for people that are not having automated integrations in place, right? So I'll fly through this pretty quickly, but there are several types of integrations out there in the world. There's package integrations. If you're in the Salesforce world, they do really well in their App Exchange. You got a pre-packaged solution that gets installed, and then you go and configure a few things within that. So it's packaged together nice and neat, and it kind of does what it does. A traditional methodology is custom code. This is where a lot of people live when you have internal developers that the world's your oyster, right? You can write anything you possibly want. The problem is it's very time intensive. It's really hard to scale. When you have turnover and new staff coming in, they have to read through tens of thousands of lines of code to figure out where that one change needs to take place. It's still very, very useful, but it is an older kind of way of viewing things. RPA, or robotics process automation, is kind of newer. Think of this as your button clicking. You're training a robot to do a lot of the functionality that you would do on screen. And then where we live is middleware or iPaaS, if you're familiar with that term. It's a no-code, low-code environment, which means we're not actually physically coding stuff out, but you can if you need to. It allows us to scale very quickly. It's declarative, so we're not writing out a bunch of code and you're just kind of dragging and dropping and building out logic. So it's easier to maintain over time, it's easy to scale, and it's easy to replicate, which is where we get our standard integrations from. But it does give us the ability to do more custom integrations on top if need be. So if you don't fit the mold exactly, don't think this isn't for you. Let's chat, because we might have a way to, refactor it a little bit to meet your needs, right? So staying on the middleware for just one more second here, in terms of without with, right? So I mentioned some of these already. Without middleware, it can be very costly. It's very hard to scale. You have limited capacity to support cross-functional use cases, right? It's just overall harder to maintain over time. With middleware, you've got a good level of security. You got the flexibility to kind of put whatever you want in play. You can connect to any different system that has an API. And we also have built-in error monitoring as well as a lot of other things that we can't put on the screen because it just doesn't fit, right? But let's talk and we can kind of share that with you. Okay, so before we move on to the Shopify piece in particular, Mel, if you don't mind, throw up the poll on the screen and let's see if we can get some response here. So which of the following is you or your customers? We have customers, prospects, partners all on the phone here. Which of the following is you or your customer's biggest pain point today? Subscription billing, payment processing, syncing transactional data, syncing inventory, other something else that's not listed here. Or if you are that's not a number, that's a letter. Words are hard, Mel. Letters are hard. If you are F and everything's smooth sailing, I'd really like to talk with you because you got something figured out that most everybody doesn't, and I can probably learn something. So go ahead and fill that out real quick. We'll give it just a second and then see what people have to say. Subscription billing is interesting, Mel. We don't see a lot of that inside of Shopify, but we've had a couple of customers that use it for subscriptions. So normally you just see that on the processing side, like things like Stripe. Okay, do we have some responses?
We do, Brent. Syncing inventory
says
syncing inventory has taken the lead, but yeah. we did have someone answer, but none are smooth sailing. So would love to get some pro tips. Drop those into the chat.
We'll put you on the webinar next time because it's like the classic teacher situation, right? If you know it, well, you might as well be teaching this class because I am not qualified in that regard. Okay, so moving on here. Whoops, went a little too fast. Go back. There we go. So what's possible with integrations specifically around the Shopify and Intacct piece, right? So I'm going to throw up a couple of diagrams here and talk through them quickly, but they describe visually some of the back end that you won't get to see when I actually go through the demo. So this is the nice marketing image. It looks very pretty and kind of gives you the idea at a high level what this does. But the basic point is we're connecting to these systems via their APIs and connecting to objects. So each one of these circles represents an object inside of each system. And then based on the logic we build out, we can push and pull that data back and forth. So a customer connecting to a customer on both systems, a contact in both, right? Products and product variants inside of Shopify will connect to items inside of Intacct. Inventory and warehouses connecting to the same inside of Shopify. So you can kind of see how that plays out, right? This next diagram is a little more detailed, and this is what I walk all of our customers through when we start going through the process of discovery and getting the project kicked off. So I'm actually going to stop here and I'm going to switch because I like doing this version because it's a little more live. And we're going to go into the demo right after this, right? So I like being able to kind of control the screen. So what you're going to see me do is we have objects from Shopify on the left and Intacct on the right. I'm going to start inside of Intacct and I'm going to create an item. So we're going to master our inventory inside of Intacct. I'm going to create an item. We're going to sync that over to Shopify so that we have the product and the product variant ready to go, right? Then I'm going to act as a customer on the Shopify web store, and I'm going to come in and place an order for a couple of different items. That order is going to have a payment associated with it. And when that takes place, we're going to trigger the transactional part of the integration to run. And we're going to take that customer, we're going to create them inside of Intacct. We're going to take that order and the lines on it and move that over as a sales invoice inside of Intacct. And then that payment will come over as an AR payment as well. The products, of course, are associated with the line items. So we're not smoke and mirrors, guys. Whatever you see is live, and I want to do that so you can see it come over. The last piece, and we won't touch on this today because we don't have the time, but we do have inventory as an add-on. So whoever was voting that inventory is a pain point, let's get a time scheduled and we can walk through this. It doesn't matter which system you choose to master the inventory in. We can make sure the other system is aware in real time of what's available to purchase, right? Most of our customers like doing inventory inside of Intacct because you have the PO process anyway over here. It really comes down to where do you replenish your items? When someone's going to go put that number into the system as this is what we got, where does that make the most sense? Now, Shopify can totally run on its own with inventory with no connection. So that's why we have this as an add-on and we don't charge for it right out of the gate. We'll have the conversation, see if it makes sense for you guys, and then we can actually, add it onto the scope of work. All right, so with that, let's jump into the live demo here. No, I didn't miss any slides, right? Demo's next. Perfect. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to start with Intacct. So here's my Intacct screen. I'm inside of the order entry and items. So I've added a couple to seed my demonstration, but I want to add a third because this will be my third line item. So today we're going to purchase some snow cone inventory. So things to make snow cones. Think about your lemonade stand. For us, as you see in our backgrounds right there, Bjorn Coding, #1 employee at Venn. Bjorn's going to open up a snow cone shop and he needs materials to do so, right? So I've got some cups and some ice already in there. I need to add some syrup so we can make sure it actually tastes good. We'll say that's going to be $7.21 per whatever quantity per bucket, or not bucket, little thing you do the little squeeze on top. So $7.21 per those. I'm going to go over the Shopify tab that we have. This is where we're going to trigger this item to sync. So we have the Shopify sync status. We can do this manually. We can do it through automation, but it's just a field over here. So I'm going to set that to sync. But before I do, I need to fill out a couple of more things just to make sure it comes over. So I'm going to fill out the Shopify SKU with the item number, just because I like to make it easy that way. And then the variant name, I'm going to call it the same thing, snow cone. And what was I doing? Syrup. Syrup. How do you say it, Mel? I think I've said it both ways
Brent,
now.
I've heard it both ways, but I say syrup.
All right. We'll have a debate over that later. So I'm going to set that to sync now. And we run everything out of Intacct, or most everything out of Smart Event Jobs. So if I come over here to Smart Event Jobs, and it might have already cleared, which would be super fun, but it'll just queue up here one after another. So if you've got 100 different products you're trying to sync over, one after another, they'll queue up and start to migrate over. So I'm going to hop to Shopify now. I'm in Shopify in products. I sorted this by newest to oldest. So these are the ones I actually synced a little bit earlier, snow cone ice and snow cone cups. I'm going to hit refresh and see if that new one already came over. Yep, did. So there's syrup. I didn't do inventory, but I do want to adjust quantities here inside of Intacct, or inside of Shopify real quick, to make sure I don't get into a bind and not able to purchase them when I get to the store. Okay, so we'll just move 100 on each of these. If you were managing this in Shopify, as I save these, it would go update Intacct. I just didn't do that as part of this process. And if you got to the store, obviously the web store, it would show as sold out. So you wouldn't be able to purchase these. All right, so now that we got that done, Shopify doesn't allow me to create an order right here in this UI. So I'm actually going to pretend I'm going through their web store. So this is our Venn Intacct integration, very cleverly called web store. I'm going to shop, and then I'll type in, I thought there was a thing right here, but I'll type in up at the top instead, snow cone, and we'll see what we get. So there's my cups, my snow cone ice, my syrup. Now, I didn't mention this earlier, but when it comes to where do we master inventory and items at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to us. We can sync both direction. There's going to be a level of effort in either case. If you start with the item inside of Intacct and you sync it to Shopify, you're going to need to add your images, your web content, your descriptions, etc. If you do it reverse, well, then you're going to have to add in your GL account that it's associated with. So you get to make that choice, but I call that out. As you can see here, we don't have any images or descriptions with these, just the name and then the amount that I chose for them, right? So I'm going to pick a couple of these. We'll change the quantity. We're going to have, let's say 57 cups. I like to do odd numbers here. Let's go back. Ice, we'll do 43 of those. Add to cart. And then finally, the syrup, we actually don't need as much. So let's just do 13 of those. Actually, we probably get better by with 3. Let's be realistic. 3 of those little containers can make a whole bunch of snow cones, unless you drink it like I do. All right, so let's view my cart. Here's my quantities. I've got a total of $755.55. We'll go to checkout here, and we'll work this process from the customer's point of view.
Are you running your own stand there, Brent? That's a pretty tall order.
Yeah, that's what I said. Bjorn's going to open up his own stand here. So put my email in. I think I actually get notifications from these, which is fun. I'm going to do Bjorn as my person, Bjorn coding, our address, continue. So now we got taxes that are estimated in here, right? 6233. We're actually going to ship this. So 3-4 day business with 690 added on as shipping. And we'll continue to that payment method. There is a special card here for Shopify that you don't actually have to charge anything, which is nice. And then we'll pay that out. So now we've got our customers coming onto the store, however you present that to them. They've purchased their items, they've got their cart, different line items associated with it. It's going to be going off to fulfillment to send that out, right? And our total is $825.35. So now let's hop back over to Intacct, and we'll go to order entry here into our invoices. And we'll give that, actually it already may have come through. Let's view this one, spot check me here, $825.35, $825.35 showing as paid. There are my line items for my syrup, my ice, and my cups, the different quantities. Those would, as you can see here, quantity on hand is negative now because I didn't have inventory set up inside of Intacct, but you can see how that would work. We've got our subtotals down here with our discounts, if there were any, shipping and tax, etc. And then posting details where things went, debits and credits. We've got our payment that came through associated right here via credit card. We can actually split that out if it's the Shopify processor, if you're using Stripe, etc. And then the final piece, we've got some Shopify details over here with the order ID showing it as synced, some audit fields for us when everything came through. If there was an error, we notify. I mentioned error messaging earlier, so we notify via email, or if you want to do something like Slack, we can do that too. And then also some more audit stuff for the integration. If there was an error or something wrong, we could click on these links and go directly to the integration and see what might have taken place. So that was probably a fire hydrant, super quick, but that gives you an idea of what this looks like. Now that was a detailed version. We took an order in Shopify, we moved it over to Intacct. We can do some summation if needed. So think about if you don't want a customer created, not that one, if you don't want a customer for every person that comes to your store, we can create a dummy customer inside of Intacct where every order populates under, or we could take orders based on a particular day, a particular line item, or some type of segmentation and summarize those and put them into the GL. Got a lot of flexibility in how we move that over to Intacct, right?
So Brent, before you jump back out of the demo environment, we did get a couple of questions. So can we revisit how to attach the item to the GL code?
Yeah, so that's going to be a good Intacct question. So let's go back to items here. So your items, I'll stay true and go to the snow cone one. Inside of your item here, and where is it? GL grouping right here. So this is how you're going to match inventory with your GL group. It's all managed inside of Intacct. So good clarification, two folds here. One, Venn is not an Intacct. We're not Intacct experts. We know a lot about Intacct, but we rely on Intacct specifically and our partners to answer those specific questions. Me, I'm definitely less of the technical expert than our guys in the back. So this is where it's going to be managed. This is where it's going to tell us the item itself inside of Intacct determines which GL it gets associated with at the end of the day.
All right, and if there's any more detail needed, feel free to ask another question or follow up with chat. Thank you for the question. We have one more. Where does the sales tax setup occur for taxable and non-taxable items?
Great question as well. Pretty much same answer, not the expert in this world. I do know I click this taxable down here, but the tax itself is calculated. I think Shopify has the ability to calculate tax. Intacct has the ability to calculate tax. In this case, Shopify is doing that work for us. I don't know if Shopify has an internal process or a system they use, or if they do something like Avalara. I know that's where Intacct will get theirs. You can hook in Avalara and calculate sales tax, but it's done in one of the two systems. And then all we do is take that as a line item, basically, and move it over to Intacct so we can account for it appropriately. But in this use case, Shopify is taking care of that tax process. That'd be a good question for someone at Shopify, or probably some quick Googling can figure out how that works.
All righty. I got to ask, because I always do, how long does the standard integration take to implement?
That's a great question. So I kind of lay this out in two folds, right? So we have this top piece where we're pulling over those transaction information, and then we have inventory. We can do one or both, whatever you need. And in either case, we're probably looking at about 4 to 6 weeks to get up and running. And that includes going in deeper discovery on the requirements you need and the logic to build out, plus testing on the back end. We don't like pushing anything out to production that hasn't been properly tested. So 4 to 6 weeks on average.
All right. That is all I have for questions, Brent. We'll be following up with a recording of the webinar. We'll be reaching out to y'all via email. So if you have any other follow-up questions or things that come to mind, or you just want to hop on a call and talk through a specific use case, we will provide an email for you to do that, and a meeting link, so you can book a meeting. If you're interested in learning more about whether it's Shopify and Sage Intacct integration or some other standard integration, because we do have others out there, Stripe, Salesforce, HubSpot, to name a few, we are here. We'd love to hop on a call with you, but we'll go ahead and let you go a few minutes early. And thanks again for joining us. Hope you learned something today. Have a great rest of your week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.